Man, I'm going to be getting a gaming PC this weekend. I'm going to be playing Call of Duty, Fortnite, and F1 with the boys. It's going to be so good, bro. I'm going to get that Midnight Star swag on. Wait. What's going on here, guys? They said it was a gaming PC, man.
Did you just shriek because you saw the price of Windows 10 Pro key licenses online? Yes. Well, shriek no longer. With today's video sponsor, SCD Keys, you can get a Windows 10 Pro single user and license activated for as little as $14 using the coupon code BFTYC. Links in the description below.
Welcome back to Tech Yes City, and today we're going to talk about the GT710 gaming PC that's going around. And I was alerted to this by a few people who said, Brian, man, check out these ads that are going on here locally. So this isn't not just happening on eBay. We'll get into the eBay ads in a second, but this is starting to happen locally here where I am, where people are now selling GT710s as gaming PCs. And this graphics card, let's look at the GT710. It was released in March 2014. That's over 7 years ago for a card that wasn't even intended back 7 years ago to play games. So if it wasn't intended and released as a gaming graphics card back then what makes you think it's going to play games 7 years later? So back in this era, the entry-level card that was made for gaming was the GTX 750 from NVIDIA, and also the GTX 750 Ti. The GTX 750 Ti has about 3 times the graphics processing power that the GT 710 does. Hence the price differential back when these cards were released. The GT 710 was originally intended just as mainly an office PC upgrade for people who wanted more display outs, or of course they didn't have a CPU that had HD graphics on board. Say for instance a Xeon or an FX processor, this card alleviated that problem and easily turned the PC now into a functional PC with graphics. Now we fast forward to 2021 and the PC reseller on eBay is suddenly met with a couple of problems. And the first one is that graphics card prices have gone up because of the current crypto boom going around, and also the scalpers are taking advantage of the new cards. And so what would typically mean for say a GTX 750 or even an RX 550 or maybe a GTX 950, these are the typical cards that would go in your budget eBay gaming PCs. They've now got to resort to graphics cards that are still cheap and they can still service this price point where people are only prepared to pay $500 for a gaming PC. They're still got to service that price. They've got to get those gaming PCs flipped because they know there's a market for it. So they've resorted to now getting the GT710s and just straight up blatantly misleading the customer and just pretty much cheating them out of their money. But we'll get onto that soon because this ties in with the second problem perfectly, and that is in 2021, NVIDIA has a massive market share in terms of their dominance over the gaming PC industry. In that even if we look at something as simple as a Steam hardware survey, we can see the majority of users playing video games on Steam are using an NVIDIA graphics card, meaning that if an NVIDIA graphics card's in a gaming PC, then it's most likely going to help sell that gaming PC. Then what better way to capture that audience with a GT710 that's got a massive 2 GB of VRAM on it? Now, of course, they could get away with just putting in a 3000G. That's AMD's 2-core, 4-threaded Athlon APU that will give you much better FPS than a GT710. Forget about the fact that if you get this gaming PC, it won't even do what these sellers are advertising, which is my biggest problem with these ads. The first one we'll pull up here is from an Aussie retailer. They're selling this for $475, and you've still got to pay shipping. I mean, you can get a discount at the moment. Wow, you get 10% off. And it's, guess what? Even with 10% off, it's still not going to play games. But what they got in terms of the specs, if we look at the i5 4590, I've covered the 4th gen i5s. It can actually play these games with half decent FPS. But when we look at the graphics card, it's so bad that it will literally play none of these games that the person is advertising, at least not with decent FPS. And what we showed you in the intro was me putting a GT710 into some of these titles here and not getting anything close to desirable. This wasn't even playing these games. For instance, on Fortnite, I pretty much put the settings as low as they could go, where the game just looked horrendous to play and I was getting under 20 FPS. Call of Duty wouldn't even boot up, it just gave me an error. And F1 2020, that was so bad to the point where I thought at one stage Daniel Ricciardo in front of me was teleporting. But then we've got over on this ad here, we've got here Cyberpunk 2077. This will not play Cyberpunk 2077. Just, we need to stop advertising these games in the same advert as this so-called gaming PC. But another thing that you have to love about this ad is when we move over now to the 2GB graphics card, the GT 710, that it has 4K support for gaming. Look, it can't even play games at 720p. What hope does it have to play games at 4K? So as we start pulling this ad to pieces, we can clearly see that it is not going to be playing games. But what gets me the most out of this whole PC is, and this is going to be when we look at a few of these other ads as well, is that they don't even list the power supply. So yeah, you could get this PC, it's got all the fancy RGB lights, it's saying that it's a gaming PC, and you get it in and you're like, okay, well, it's got 16 gig of RAM and a 4th gen i5. If I just change the graphics card over to say a GTX 970, I'll be getting some decent frame rates and I'll still have a decent price performance PC on my hands. I wouldn't have got ripped off to oblivion. So first of all, you've got someone getting ripped off because they're getting misled, but then they get the PC in and they're like, well, I want more frames, because they're literally got a slideshow in front of them. But that's when the news gets even worse, because these sellers aren't even advertising the power supplies in the PCs. And so you're probably going to get something like this, just total trash. So basically what this means is once you change over the graphics card from the GT 710 to another graphics card, your PC is pretty much either going to do one or two things. It's not even going to have the cables there to turn the PC on, or when you turn it on, you're just going to hear crack, snap, and pop like that cereal that I used to eat when you put milk in it. Now we'll give this seller in Australia a little bit of a break, because at least he only advertised it as a gaming PC. If we move over now to the UK, we've got our friends over the Monarch here. They're selling it as a fast gaming PC. This is where it gets better. They got a fast gaming PC bundle. If you get this, you are going to be gaming with incredible speeds, right? I mean, generally that's what you'd think fast would do. Like, if I saw a fast gaming PC, I'd be like, okay, at least this thing's going to do 60 FPS. But then we get down to the specs here, and all we've got is the same, but even worse, because he's got the included keyboard and mouse and monitor, and it's Fortnite. They got Fortnite, and they're advertising that hard. We got fancy pictures. And then when we go down to the monitor, the worst thing is they're advertising with what looks like a 22-inch monitor. But then when we go down to the screen, it says here, 19-inch refurbished TFT. And if you guys have seen my parts hunts, I'll get 19-inch monitors for probably around, sometimes I'll get them for free. People just give them to me, or I get them for $5. And they don't look anything like the monitor that they're advertising in the photo. Second of all, we look at the gaming PC here. Instead of advertising a power supply, they just advertise a power cable. So that's right, you're getting a power cable. Like that's gonna make any difference for you getting a crappy power supply and having to change it out eventually in the end. Then the next thing is we've got 16 gigabytes of RAM. I mean, I know these sellers are stepping up their game now. They know 8 gigabytes isn't going to cut it. When you sell a gaming PC, it's got to have 16 gigabytes of RAM, because that is a great selling point. The more RAM that's in a PC, the better, especially when it comes to a video card like the GT 710. I mean, the GT 710, even with 2 gigabytes of VRAM, is going to perform worse than a GTX 580 with 1.5 gigabytes of VRAM. And in fact, the GTX 580 could still play games with smooth frame rates in 2021. But then we go over to this is where the fast gaming PC gets even more faster, and that is with the hard drive. We don't even have an SSD here. So when you go to boot this thing up, and I'm assuming that it's going to be a used hard drive since we've got a used motherboard, a used CPU, and also an old used 19-inch monitor, we're going to get a used hard drive. Now, if you've ever used a used hard drive as a main boot drive, you'll know that it is just the slowest thing going. And in fact, nowadays, I wouldn't even do this on an office PC. Any PC I sell here just has to have an SSD in it, because I just feel sorry for the people that buy these systems and they don't have SSDs in them. Just like I feel sorry for the people buying not just a gaming PC, a fast gaming PC with a GT 710 in it, where they're going to get this thing home. And I mean, I don't know what the reaction's going to be. If they're a bit off edge that day, that gaming PC is going out the window. Or if they're patient, they're just going to be messaging the seller and saying, why am I getting slow frame rates? So if there's anyone out there with some sort of DMs about, hey, my friend bought one of these PCs and they started messaging the seller about why is it so slow, I'd love to read that transcript of what happened. That'd be very interesting to read. But when we look at the UK seller, like look, compared to the Aussie seller, this guy is on his game. He's on another level. First of all, he's got a fast gaming PC going on here. He's got no SSD. And then he's got Fortnite in the picture, as well as a 1-year warranty. And then if we look at the condition, he's saying this thing is opened and it's never used, even though it's just flooded with used parts. So it's totally misleading. But if we look a little bit closer, the person's eBay seller account, they're the computer specialist. I mean, these guys are specialists, and they've sold 3,800 units, and they're selling pretty much between 2 and 3 of these things a day, which actually scares me about how many people are getting ripped off with these PCs on the promise that they're gaming PCs. Let me put it this way. If I had to game on a GT 710, I just wouldn't game, period. I'd even pick up my smartphone and start playing games on my smartphone because it would give me a better experience than what a GT 710 could give me. However, we cannot just stop there. This is where things get better from this seller because, I mean, if you thought that paying more money for a PC would give you better specs or at least a better listing, think again, because we go down in price now from £350 down to £260, and we've now, forget about the fast gaming PC, we've got an ultra fast gaming PC with half the memory as before and still the same GT 710. So years later, after I made a video in 2018 exposing this stuff, it just seems like every year there's a new sucker born and they just come into the fold and they get conned by this stuff. And I feel sorry for these people because they're going to have to learn the hard way that this is not a gaming PC and it's not going to play games, especially the games that these sellers are listing. And in fact, I think the only game that the GT 710 could even barely play was CSGO, where I managed to get over 30 FPS, but I've managed to get over 30 FPS on things like HD graphics. For instance, one thing about me is I'd never sell to someone, for instance, an i3-10100 as a gaming PC. I'd just sell it as a PC or an office PC or a desktop computer. Because if I sold that as a gaming PC and someone went home with the intention of playing games, I would know that I've misled them or I've scammed them, and I just couldn't sleep at night. And so I have to raise the question to these sellers, and that is, what goes through your mind when you're selling this stuff as an ultra fast gaming PC and then advertising all these titles about what this PC can do when it clearly can't do any of that, and it would probably make for a half decent office PC with some fancy RGB lights, which a said person could easily pick up for $100. So before getting on out of here, I do have to raise concern about this whole GT 710 so-called gaming PC, and it just really reflects back on its own paradox that it's creating, because the sellers are trying to make the PCs that they're selling cheaper because they're trying to rip off the people who can't afford to go out and buy a proper gaming PC, especially at the current prices. And so I get it with these sellers. You want to make profit and you want to make $1, but you're doing so, in my opinion, with absolutely zero integrity, and you're just misleading and scamming people. And it seems like years later, this thing just keeps happening. And in fact, it's happening a lot worse than the last time I took a look at the gaming PC, at least with the sheer volume of sales, with this one seller getting over 3,000 sales on their GT 710 so-called gaming PC. So thanks for letting me know about this one, guys. But as time goes on and as, I guess, economic conditions get worse, you're going to see more and more scams and more things that are misleading pop up along the way. And that was something I started noticing crawling up in 2020. But now in 2021, it seems like all bets are off and people are just going to be straight up posting up lies. And I don't even know how eBay allow this crap to happen. There should be a limit to putting gaming PC in the title and relating to what graphics card you're advertising. that PC with. Same goes for Gumtree and Facebook Marketplace. I'd love it if there was some kind of filters which filters this crap out. Sure, if someone wants to look for RGB PC, they can find it and they can go get ripped off in that manner. But when it comes to a gaming PC, especially an ultra fast gaming PC with a GT 710, it's just not happening. And I just don't know why these sellers are stooping this low and going down to these levels when they don't have to. Anyway guys, hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, then be sure to hit that like button for us and also let us know in the comments section below, have you run into any of these similar scams recently, or have you protected some of your friends from the GT 710 gaming PC? Love reading those thoughts and opinions as always. And of course, if you want to warn people about this stuff, feel free to like and share this video because it does help me too. But we've got the question of the day here, which comes from Frank Bullet, and they ask, I would be interested in your thoughts regarding silver and what you think will be happening in the near future. So in terms of silver, I've been open on the channel here. I've been buying up a little bit of silver, and that just protects your hard-earned against the thing known as inflation. Now, I am a little bit scared of inflation because I've never personally lived through a high inflation environment. So I don't know the effects, as well as my parents not really noticing the effects of when they were growing up through the 70s. So it's one of those weird environments where you're kind of going in blind, but I do know one thing, and that is something that's had a store of value for thousands of years will continue to have a store of value. So in terms of its price in the near future, I'm actually not sure. It could go down, it could even go parabolic. But in terms of the next 5 years, silver is definitely going to be higher than what it is today. And the reason we stumbled onto silver in relation to tech prices, if we look at graphics card prices, I think they're going into a much higher price range than they should be. And so if you want to hold out and you're still like me, you're scared of inflation, then you can hold on to some silver for the time being and just ride it out and wait. It could even take possibly another 6 months for GPU prices to normalize, or even another year, but you can hold out if you're afraid of inflation in that meantime, and then sell down some silver and buy yourself a graphics card once the price of graphics cards to silver, for example, drops down. Though in terms of me investing for the near future, I really usually never get involved in that because near future would mean that you're a day trader. And if you guys don't already know, you can go look up the Medallion Fund. And that is literally like algorithmic bots that are programmed to take money off day traders. That's the history of the Medallion Fund, which was developed in, I think, the 1980s. So just be aware that if you're a day trader, do step very cautiously in how you trade, because there's always going to be a bigger fish ready to take your hard-earned, just like these fast gaming PC sellers with GT 710s. Anyhow, I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you've stayed this far and you want to see the content the moment it drops, be sure to hit that sub button, ring that bell, and I'll catch you in another tech video very soon. Peace out for now. Bye.